Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 8:06. A good Monday morning to one and all, and thanks for tuning into O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 8:35, we'll talk to Sean Kennedy, president of Virginians for Safe Communities. I'm Julie Gunlock, joined by my friend Andrew Langer. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Julie. Happy post-Star Wars Day to you.
Yes, and happy Cinco de Mayo. Joining us now is Stephen Moore, economist and senior visiting fellow in economics at the Heritage Foundation. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, good morning, guys. Great to be with you.
Well, we have had a good jobs report, stronger than expected. 177,000 jobs in April. Feeling pretty good, don't you think, Steve?
Yeah, it's been amazing last couple of weeks. I mean, I just wrote my column on this morning that if you go back to, and Andrew knows exactly what I'm talking about, if you go back to around April 20th, which was maybe, 2 weeks ago, the sky was falling. Every headline was the worst stock market since the Great Depression. That's what they told us. And the worst April ever for the stocks. And in fact, it hit a low point on April 20th. And you know what happened since then? We've had the biggest boom ever.
Right.
We've seen about a 2,500 point increase in the Dow. So investors haven't made up everything that was lost, because March and April were brutal months, but it's been a big comeback. And incidentally, front page of the New York Times yesterday was about how Trump's first 100 days worse for the stock market. And I go, well, you know what? You left out the last 10 days when the Dow's been up 2,500 points. So that's really good news. Now, look, I don't want to tell people that the turbulence is over, because it's not. We're going to see a lot of up days, a lot of down days as these tariff, talks and the turmoil continue. But the other thing that really actually surprised me, Julie, is what you just were saying earlier, which is that the jobs report was surprisingly strong. Right. We have today in America a record number of Americans that are working. Never before in history have more Americans been working. And the labor force participation rate went up. It went down under Biden. And the other good news is that government employment fell, which is a good thing because we're running a $2 trillion deficit, and private sector employment increased. And as you both know, that's an exact opposite of what was happening under Biden, where so much of the job growth was in government where we least need it.
Steve, I'm curious how the media, which is simply an adjunct, corporate media is just an adjunct of the Democrat Party and the Democrat Party itself, how they're going to spin this. We know it's going to be negative. We know they're going to try to figure out a way. It's like, listen to Jen Psaki saying she didn't know about Biden's cognitive decline. They're going to figure out a way to spin this, and they'll lie and they'll make stuff up. But what do you, I like to sort of be prepared. What do you think we'll hear from both the corporate media and the Democrat Party about this good news?
Well, first of all, I just want to be cautionary here, because, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a down week this week, depending on what happens with, with the China deal and the deal with India and so on. So it's going to be turbulent, and I don't want people to say, oh, you told me we're going to have a bull market. I'm just telling you, we've had a nice recovery that the media has refused to even talk about. So much of this, Julie, depends on what happens with two things, actually. Number one is getting these trade deals done. And I'm not a big tariff guy, but I do think that if Trump can pull this off, we could actually have freer and fairer trade where you have low tariffs, but other countries level the playing field, which is what Trump wants. The second thing that has to happen, and it's not happening quickly enough, Andrew, is getting this tax cut passed.
Right.
I mean, it's been 110 days or something like that now. They should have passed this already. They're making it much harder than it has to be. And so I think once you get those two things in order, I think you're going to see a boom like you never saw before.
Steve, let me add to this. You know where I'm going to go, because when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. The role of hitting the gas pedal on regulatory cuts. I mean, what role has that played in the last 100 days?
Gigantic. It's been a huge. It's like a tax cut, Andrew, and you know this. You're the expert on this. But when you cut the regulatory costs, and by the way, we're not talking about putting mercury and in the air. We're not talking about.
No, we just leave that to the Girl Scout cookies, Steve.
Exactly. I mean, we're not talking about workplace safety. We're just talking about dumb regulations that cost way too much, like shutting down our our coal plants and shutting down our pipelines and things like that cost the economy so much. So I believe that the deregulation, Andrew, and you're the expert on this, but my back of the envelope calculation is it will add $1 trillion to the GDP in terms of more productivity of our businesses and economy. See, this is the thing, Trump talks about trade and so on, and we do need a level playing field, but we are a super competitive economy. It's really amazing how resilient our economy is, and so how productive it is. Regulations just unnecessarily add to the cost of producing things. And again, I'm not talking. Yes, we're going to keep the Clean Air Act. Yes, we're going to keep the Clean Water Act and those things. But the stupid regulations have to go.
Right. I mean, it's the idea of, do you need 1 day of training to deal with lead in home renovation, or do you need 4, right? Which is
exactly.
At one point they were talking about 4 days of training every year for this. And let's get to this because, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, she's come in. There's a story about her jumping the line to get on a plane. She's also been talking about
She did. I had not.
She
I
did.
Heard that
oh yeah. This is a thing. But
she's a woman of the people, right?
Yeah.
Right. And this is my point: is that she's all upset about the role of our immigration policy, the impact on other countries. Yeah. I'm sure she hasn't said it, but the other part of this tariff story is we forget about the impacts in places like China when we stop importing, or at least threaten to stop importing so much from China. Yeah. Talk about how this changes behavior over there.
Well, look, China's the bill. If I have any complaint about Trump's tariff policy, Andrew, I wish he had just really concentrated on the real villain, the evil empire, which is China. I don't really get why we're picking a fight with Canada and other countries, but that's Trump. And I've known him for 8 years, and he sometimes he's two moves on the chessboard in front of where I am, where a lot of his critics are. But so. What was I? Now I lost my train of thought.
China. We're talking about China and the riots in China as factories collapse.
Yeah, so right, and that's happening. I mean, this thing is, by the way, as you know, Andrew, the Chinese completely lie about their economic statistics, right? I mean, they completely lie about how well their economy is doing. They've been doing that for a long time. What I'm hearing is that, we know that their stock market has collapsed. We know that their factories are only running at half capacity. And we know, have you seen those pictures, Julie and Andrew, on all the ships that are just stuck there in the port? I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cargo ships. They can't get them out of their ports because they can't sell them here. It is wreaking havoc on the Chinese economy. So this is the point that I think is really important that a lot of people don't understand. Have the terrorists caused us some pain? No question about it. Yes. But for China, what's the old saying? If we sneeze, they catch pneumonia. They need to trade with the United States. Their economy is in big trouble, and that's the art of the deal here. Trump understands that we have leverage over China, and for once, we're using that leverage to force them to do things that are in America's interest. I'm very much in favor of that.
Well said. I want to get your reaction really quick. We're going to play a cut, and I'd like to get your reaction.
Yeah.
Cut 26, Michael.
That we are now 101 days into an administration that wants to invest in you, that wants to build the future with you. And when Americans see a beautiful bridge or a beautiful building, we all ought to look at it and say that was made with American hands and built with great American steel, right?
That was J.D. Vance talking in South Carolina about a manufacturing renaissance. Your thoughts?
Well, look, we can and will be the manufacturing superpower. Manufacturing is going to change over the next 10 years very radically. I'm on the board of a company where we build houses, and we build houses with robots. So these kinds of changes are coming. Oh, it's amazing. You should see. But so the idea. The one thing I worry a little bit about in terms of the J.D. Vance and Trump strategy is let's not. And I think Andrew, you'd probably agree with me on this. Let's not try to recapture the jobs of the 20th century. Let's be number one in the jobs of the 21st century, and that is chasing steel jobs, because frankly, over the next 10 years, the number of people who are going to be working in steel factories is going to be cut in half. And same thing with a lot of the manufacturing. So I want to make sure, and this is why, by the way, our education system is something, Julie, you talk a lot about. I mean, how are we going to be number one if we have a school system where the kids can't read the diploma?
That's right. We got to leave it there, Steve. But I do want to say I'm raising 3 teenage kids in a small house. I'm going to contact you about one of those robots. I need one. I need more room.
Right. You can let mothers anymore.
You can let me borrow one of your robots, right? No problem. Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Take care. Have a great day.